Right, just going to give you a rundown today of some 78s I've been playing recently, and these are all for separate finds, but I'm just going to give you a rundown of them and tell you a pretty bit about them. So I think we should get into it. And so we shall. First up, we've got a Broadcast 4-tune disc. I'm going to show you a picture of it new, just outside the sleeve, but that's what it looks like. And the other side as well. Yep, 2 tracks on one side of a disc, 4 in total, hence the name 4-tune. And they only made about 30 titles, all in 1933, so these are quite rare. But on this side you got there's something about a soldier and whistling under the moon, and on the other side we have got, what was I doing there? In Santa Lucia and a waltz, a night in tune. Now, it sounds alright, that record. I played it on the radiogram not too long ago, but unfortunately when I tried to play the first track on side B, first track on side 2, it skipped constantly, unfortunately. And it was almost unlistenable because of the skipping, and the tone arm was just bobbing up and doing it. It was like trying to... The record is a pretty bit warped anyway, so I do understand, and the grooves are cut quite fine. But yeah, quite a rare record, I have to say. I think the catalogue codes for this started about 500, 501. This one's number 510. I think they went up to about 533 before they discontinued them. But Broadcast Records did their normal 8-inch discs and 10-inch discs. Oh, good heavens. I can't speak tonight. The 10-inch discs were branded Broadcast 12 because they ran for as long as a 12-inch record would do. And their 8-inch discs would run for the normal duration of a 10-inch shellac record. Right, next up we've got My Blue Heaven by Jesse Crawford, played on the Wurlitzer organ on HMV B2653. I've just listened to this only a few minutes ago on the radiogram. I'm going to go downstairs in a minute to listen to the B-side, which is called The Song Is Ended. Yep, I've got The Song Is Ended, I think an orchestral arrangement on another 78 from the same kind of era. But I'll go downstairs and play that B-side. It's a lovely, pleasant song, My Blue Heaven, and it's been covered numerous times. Very nice. Next up, we've got a 50s 78 new. This is Well Now Dig This by the Jodemars, and the B-side is, I'll just flip it over, Let's All Rock Together, and the vocals on both sides are by Dick Richards. Now, if you don't know who the Jodemars are, they're a band who split from Bill Haley and his Comets, and they formed a new band inside the Capitol. It's a great song, this one, a nice song. Nice rock and roll tune that's reminiscent of some of Bill Haley's recordings, but sadly this record never charted, and the group split up a few years later, but nice song. Right, next up in this short rundown of 78s is the Harry Lime theme from the film The Third Man, a classic British film, and this is played by Anton Karas on a zither. Not entirely sure what a zither is, it's got strings anyway. But there it is on a Decca record, catalogue code F9235, 1949 this came out, the original soundtrack, from the original soundtrack to the film. So the original recording, the sleeve's slightly ripped. I found this without a sleeve, so had to borrow this Beltona electrographic sleeve from the 30s. And the B-side is Gaffy Mozart Waltz, also from the same film. And you'll notice, I'm just going to try and find an open end on this sleeve, if you excuse me just a moment. You can see that there is quite a big run-out groove on this, quite a big run-out, look at that. The record's a bit scratched up and everything, it's a bit dull and worn and beaten up, but as are most 78s that I've found, but it's a great song and it still sounds brilliant, this record, still sounds good on either a gramophone or on the Marconi phone, which I most recently played it with. Next up we've got Let's Have a Party by Winifred Atwell and on a piano with rhythm accompaniment on Philips PB213. 1953 this came out and it reached number 2 in the chart. This is not to be confused with Let's Have Another Party, which came out in 1954 and it became Christmas number 1 that year and landed Winifred Atwell her first of 2 UK number 1s. The other number 1 that Winnie had was The Poor People of Paris. But Let's Have a Party, that is a party medley with If you knew Susie like I know Susie, the more we are together, that's my weakness now, and these are Mother Brown on part 1. And on part 2, on the other side, we've got Daisy Bell, Booms the Daisy, She Was One of the Early Birds, and 3 o'clock in the morning. And you'll notice there it's her other piano, which is the upright piano. If you see her piano without the word other, then it's a concert grand she was playing with. But this is her other piano, which was used quite often for the party medleys. But yeah, Winifred Atwell, great pianist. She was succeeded by Russ Conway in the late 50s in terms of the chart run, but she recorded some great tunes, Black and White Rag, Coronation Rag, Golden Tango, etc. And Let's Have a Party, Let's Have Another Party, amongst all things. And she was the first black artist to have a #1 in the UK, and the only female instrumentalist to have hit #1 in the UK as well. So very interesting recording artist she was, and indeed very prolific as well. You can see quite a few 78s of hers turning up from time to time. But perhaps an even more prolific recording artist, and especially where I live in Scotland, he's very well known, and you can find many of his records up here as a very prolific recording artist. Jimmy Shand, yep, he's marked as James Shand on the label, as was his early recordings in the mid to late 30s. This record dates from 1935, so very early Jimmy Shand. In fact, this was before he switched to his Hona Shand Merino, which was actually specially made for him, and many of his recordings contains a slightly different accordion sound. And you got Donnybrook Boy, Humours of Donnybrook, sorry, and Paddy O'Rafferty, Irish Jigs on one side, and on the other side we've got March Strathspey and Reel, Burning Sands of Egypt, Standing Castle and Tory Band Lassies. I've played both sides on the gramophone, and I played the Irish Jigs side on the radiogram. However, I couldn't get all the way to the end, only the very last part I couldn't get the end, the tone arm had stuck. In fact, if we see there, the grooves run pretty close to the centre, as you can see. They did do a reissue of this record where the grooves didn't run so close to the centre. They did do a reissue with a bigger label, but I don't have that. I mean, bell toners are really, really common up here, I have to say, and you very rarely find a job lot of 78s without a bell toner of some era from it, whether it be from the 30s, 40s or 50s or whatever. But that's a pretty early Jimmy Shand record for 1935, recorded in Edinburgh as well. It's difficult to pin down exactly when these bell toners from the 1930s were recorded, because records weren't that well kept back then in terms of paperwork, but he seemed to have a bit more success trying to do the recording dates for his EMI recordings. And you can tell this record's right for the sleeve it's in, because it actually mentions the title here on this bell toner sleeve. Yep, it's on bell toner 2230. Right, last up tonight we've got An Evening at the Bew in Orkney by Robert Milne and the Arcadian Lads. And this is a pretty Orkney dialect sketch, split over 2 sides of a record. And I'm Arcadian myself, so I ken a lot of the words used in this. And perhaps if you're no familiar with Orkney Scots, and this would be a good introduction to it, of course. I don't know where this was recorded, but I do know that this was recorded in 1933, and don't quite know who Robert Milne was, but Robert Milne did have R. Milne gramophone dealers at Junction Road in Catwall in Orkney. Yes, this record, he did record a few. This is one of them, and 1933 this was. And of course, it's also that was part 2 I had on there. And that's part 1 now. But yes, I'll maybe have to play that at some point. Very interesting record, and entertaining as well. Yes, that's on Parlophone E4071. So that's your first of 7 interesting records and interesting 78s. And hopefully have another 7 for you another time. So yeah, thank you very much, and good night.